Well, we're back. Time now for the news review. And you're looking all curry and blue this morning.
You are being mischievous. And you're matching my
Exactly. I was about to say my tie and my lapel pin were this sort of coded whatever is happening must stop.
No.
On behalf of Ghanaians.
No.
By popular request.
I like it.
But here we go. It's raining out there.
You said it's pelting.
Yes, it's actually pelting out there. The switch was pretty rapid. It just took a few minutes, and all of a sudden, the weather looks as though it were 5 o'clock in the morning again.
I was outside a few minutes ago.
Exactly.
So I didn't even sense that the rains were coming. And then you come and say it's pelting.
I went to the car park, so I just took my umbrella quickly so that when it gets to that point, I'll be the one who is safe. But even before we get to our guest, then I'll talk about endpoint first, and then I'll find out what your most topical issue has been over the weekend.
Me or
you, I want to find out from you today before we get to our guest. But this segment is always brought to you by Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, and they are offering you, if you're a man, prostate screening for free. Check out your prostate. You never know what could be happening there. My own good friend, Kukusinti Misa, was taken by surprise and will be airing that prostate watch series in the course of this week, hopefully. On the other end, if you're a woman and you don't know what's going on with your fertility, that could be a recipe for disaster. It could be disaster in the waiting. But the question is, why wait? Head to any of the branches of Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. Here in Accra, they are at Spintex opposite the Shell signboard, Kumasi, Kronom Abwe here behind the Angel Educational Complex. There's Takrade Anaji Estate, Tema Community 22, Techiman Hanswa, and Siama Nzema. Do you want to call them? They have two numbers, 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. At this juncture, I guess I'd find out from you before I bring in our guest.
Yes. It's actually a very simple issue that's been going on for a while. It's Dr. Balmier's response to the increase in passport fees. First of all, I have a big concern that he's proposing all these solutions that he cannot actually kickstart now because he's still a driver's mate.
Yeah.
And then he said
flat tax rates and all of that.
The Ghana card is our solution to the hike in passports fees.
Right.
So, I mean, it makes some sense that the processes, during the news review last time with, I've forgotten the name of the gentleman, he talked about how...
Adam Agbana.
No, not Adam Agbana. From a PPP.
Oh,
right.
Remy,
good.
Right.
And he was talking about the backlog and maybe it's the processes, it's infrastructural challenges that's causing the delay. So, coupled with that, the increment, and he's saying that because Ghana card and digitization, that's going to speed up the process. No talk about how we are going to reduce the cost because the average income brackets of the Ghanaian cannot accommodate such prices. But his solution, of course, is digitalization because it's 2024 and December is in the corner. But
I've seen something interesting. Yes, you could call it propagandist, but at the same time, it makes sense. You know, people, do you know what I'm referring to?
Talk to me.
People have, put together where, let me just read. I think I'll find it somewhere, where people are basically suggesting that the vice president in his administration is suggesting that when his administration comes, they will do X, Y, and Z. When this is actually his administration. Let me just see whether I can... yes, so here it is. Basically, the caption, and it is mischievous, it is propagandist, but there's an element of truth to it. My government is in power, but when my government comes, my government will change all the things that my government has done. My government will do better than my government. You know, someone is playing on things, but it is the truth. I mean, you are in there. You are in there. You are vice president for... Christ's sake, you're vice president for crying out loud.
To actually get into the details of these issues because as a young person in this country, it's sickening.
It's scandalous where we are.
Like, how do you, as if Ghanaians are not discerning enough to understand that this is all just, That's the issue on my mind.
And now someone was telling me over the weekend that even those who want to get out to now with the passport services will stay here.
You are in fire.
Oh, yeah,
you want to get out of the fire.
Yes.
And now they're just making it more difficult for you to get out.
But, well, we shall survive and thrive. But let's now bring in Dr. Khalid. A very good morning to you, sir. Okay, he's not joined the conversation yet. We'll try to get him to join the conversation. So I guess we can move on into the papers now.
You didn't tell me what's been on your mind. It's been a week.
Oh, Doomsday, for example, has been on my mind.
Right.
Yeah, a few things happening. I keep saying that my mom was thankful this weekend because at least, was it Saturday, Sunday, her light hadn't. Usually over the weekends, it's pretty problematic. People in different places suffering. Yeah. And you can just tell the frustration is just, what's it, osmosis or whichever one. You know, what's the other? It's percolating. People are getting, it's hitting the eyebrow point, right? Yeah. And I see that, look, people are being battered on all fronts. It's not easy being in Ghana right now. I have a friend in the United States who comes to Ghana pretty often. She's 60 plus, but she looks so fit, you would think she was 50. Okay. And she keeps talking to me, WhatsApp call, what's happening in Ghana? You know, I wanted to come again, but I hear so many things. And, you know, COPEC was telling us recently that fuel prices would likely get to 17 cedis soon. Do you know what that means?
Yes.
Do you know how much it costs me to fuel my vehicle? Not in 7 days, in 5 days. Yeah. Okay? That means I'm fueling maybe 5 or 6 times a month. Yeah. Now, if you look at what you're earning, you look at the erosion of inflation, you look at fuel prices, not to talk of what you will eat and drink, not to talk of your utilities, not to talk of my mom and her medicine and the things I have to get for her on a weekly, bi-weekly, monthly basis. You realize that this is literally, you know, we're up the proverbial, I can't use that word, but we are up the proverbial creek without a paddle.
Did you follow the Joy News series, Doomsday Diaries, the first episode?
Yes, I watched
how businesses have come to a halt because they cannot function.
Yes.
It's a big printing business, and they have to shut down because the lights just...
I'll tell you, you're one of those that really feel the pinch. Yes, you're talking of printing. They feel it. I have a lot of friends in Newtown. Newtown, right here. You know, there are a lot of them concentrated there. Trust me, the stories they've been sharing, not good. Generators, cost, translating the cost, people not being willing to take on the cost because of the state of the economy. But those that sometimes I really pity, those operating cold stores. Oh. Because some of them do have backups, but sometimes you are caught unawares. And a few hours of that, and your products are basically going bad. And you're probably going to have to throw away.
Going up, and so even if you have to fall on the backup generator, you have to literally pull the hair from your nostrils in order to keep your business running.
And for me, what irks me the most, you know, it's one thing injuring somebody. It's another thing adding insult to that injury, rubbing salt in the person's wounds. The rhetoric, the way people in government speak, I'm sorry, the way the likes of Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh.
It's Doomsday. What are you talking about?
The way he talks, sometimes I scratch my head and ask myself, is this man in Ghana, or is he so oblivious, or is it that they get to the point where they are so shrouded outside of our reality that they actually believe sometimes the hogwash they speak? Because, I mean, what does it take? Listen, we do understand, maybe in the erstwhile administration we had this. This is not necessarily doomsday. We know your power goes off every now and then. These are the situations on the ground. And though we don't have a firm grip on everything, Ghana for Yesremo, we're trying to resolve the matter. We're doing our best. It may not be what you would prefer. It's not what we would prefer either. But by and by, we'll get... I mean, I can't come out. But and you, if you want a timetable, you are wishing evil upon the land. And you ask yourself, what you are doing to me, what is that? Is it not evil you are doing to me?
Regardless of whether or not we have a power deficit, it is doomsday. Can we please stop calling it doomsday?
It is doom
Okay,
so.
it's doom
It is doom so. Please,
Don't stop wishing evil on the country.
Let's get into the papers.
I hear he's tipped to be named as flag bearer.
Who?
Napo.
I mean, that is not our decision to make, and that would be pretty interesting.
Yes, I'm looking forward to see how that unfolds. On the back of all his media friendliness.
Exactly. But I heard, who was it that was saying in recent times that, I think it was John Bwedu, former scribe of the MPP, was saying that those names that had come to the forefront, that people were going to be disappointed. So if it's Napo, then he got it wrong. But if it is someone else, totally different.
Yeah.
I hear now there's even consideration of a woman.
Woman, yes.
But if it's were Napo, well, I'll reserve my comments for
when they actually
when the names are out, and then we'll see.
I must say, Benjamin, that I like that we can actually sit on here and make little burden, crisis.
Yeah.
You know, because we say something in everybody. It was so yesterday.
Charlie, you must. Because if you're too serious about it, Charlie, ubei.
Let's get into the newspaper.
Let's start with the Daily Graphic newspaper.
All right, so on the front page of the Daily Graphic newspaper, NPP, NDC must prioritize public interest. That is from the speakers. GTech directs universities to cease senior high school satellite campus operations. Government increases cocoa producer prices. Yes, that's an interesting one. Complaint to Straj when institutions treat you wrongly. That is the Deputy Commissioner telling the citizenry to do that. Let's do the story on the NPP, NDC must prioritize public interest. The story reads, the two major political parties, the New Patriotic Party and the National Democratic Congress, have been urged to prioritize the needs and interests of the public. That, according to a leading civil society activist and a trade unionist, would enable the country to achieve appreciable socio-economic development. The coordinator of the Third World Network Africa, Dr. Yao Graham, and the Secretary General of the Trades Union Congress, Dr. Anthony Ban, who made the call, pointed out that the main reason for the lack of socio-economic development was that the two major political parties prioritized the interests of their members over those of the general public. Not too different from what we were talking about how it's difficult for government leaders to be honest with us, because they're shooting themselves in the foot. If they tell us the real situation on the ground, we will see them for who they really are. And
how can it be that way? How can they not realize? And I get it. In politics, yes, especially if you want to be Machiavellian and all of that. But imagine, for example, being on the show. When things happen, you have to tell me the truth that, oh, this is what is happening, and today this and that, and then we know how to adjust. And likewise, if something is happening to me, I have to, oh, this is what is happening, or let's do it this way, or you take that, that makes the show go on. Yes. Imagine if we were both trying to cut corners and pretending things were a certain way when they were not. Yeah. The show would be impacted, the people, our viewers would be displeased, and all of that. I do get it. It is politics, and across the world, lies are told and all of that. But at what point do we stop and say, in this instance, I actually said this, but I got it wrong? I mean, Akufo-Addo point came into power and said that, listen, I thought so much about the coffers and all of that, but things are different from what I came to meet. And so let's adjust. And what stops you from doing that? What?
Breaking the 8.
So you must break it even if it means breaking the truth, right?
I remember that conversation you had about honesty in politics. Do you remember? I think it was just a month or two ago. And we talked about how if our political leaders decide to adopt honesty in our political endeavors, the country will be far better than what we see today.
I think they would have a lot more peace.
And it's just respect for us as citizens.
That is
respect. That is it. That we are human beings and we live off utilities like electricity and water. So the truth of the situation should not be lost on us.
You know, a lot of them in power have plants, generators, and the rest. They may not necessarily. It is good, for example, for people to come out. Listen, I am a part of this administration. I am also facing this. It's not the best of situations. For me, I don't even have a plant or generator. So we are in this together. But oftentimes, when they say we are in something together, they are lying. It's a totally different.
Do their families even live here? You see, their reality is so far.
When we talk about education,
so they don't see our stress.
When we talk about education and scholarships and the rest, a lot of them will talk and say this and that. Ask them from the education ministry itself. I said ministry, I didn't say minister. Ministry itself. Go there and find out how many of their children are in Ghana studying. Yet they will talk about. But one funny thing before you go on, you know the scholarships thing, right? Yeah. Well, I was listening the other day, it just made me laugh. When the fourth estate wanted the documentation and the scholarship secretariat refused to give it to them. You know, they like doing that in Ghana. Oh, and it is confidential and all of that.
Thanks to RTI.
Then the RTI kicks in and they have to give it. But to show them, so they don't give it to them in PDF. They give them about 10,000 pages.
Are you serious?
Oh, you should have listened to Suleiman Ibrahima. So now you have to take page by page and read. That's why it's taken so long, actually, for them to. And I'm sure there are even things, I want to believe there are things they may have missed in there. You know, our country,
They were actually questioning the basis for which we're, punching loopholes into this, because these people are Ghanaians, and there's no legal instruments that differentiates who's really needy and brilliant. But
the same way when you look at the new list of appointees or nominees from the president, as far as the Court of Appeal is concerned, I see some interesting names there. Franklin Kudo said something, I think retracted also. But for me, I just find them interesting. I'll leave it there.
A lot of things are interesting in this country. Now, GTech directs universities to cease senior high school satellite campus operations. The story is on page 13 of the Daily Graphic. The Ghana Tertiary Education Commission has ordered universities to cease operating satellite campuses in senior high schools and on unapproved premises. The Director General of GTech, Professor Ahmed Abdullahi Jinapor, said the proliferation of satellite campuses of most universities with charters was negatively affecting the growth and development of technical universities. Quote, "It is of no surprise that in a school like Bogatanga Senior High School, there can be about 5 different traditional universities running distance education programs for students." Do you have a reaction to this story?
Well, what would my reaction be? I mean, it is what it is. It's pretty straight to the point, so, yeah.
Let's go on. Complain to Shraj when institutions treat you wrongly. The Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice has urged people who are denied public services or have difficulty accessing such services to file a complaint at Shraj for redress. According to Shraj, it had the legal mandate to receive complaints of such nature, investigate and take remedial actions. A Deputy Commissioner of Shraj, Mercy Labi, disclosed this during an exclusive interview with Daily Graphic. Quote, "If you have applied for a passport, for instance, and the passport office is unduly delaying in issuing you with the passport, or you have applied to register your land at Lands Commission and they are unduly delaying in offering you their services, you can file a complaint for us to go into the reasons for the undue delay and give you a redress." I didn't know we could do that. And how feasible is this? So if it takes me more than 3 weeks, 3 months to get a passport, I can file a complaint to Shraj and they will look into it?
I mean, those are some of the things that we probably never test, but which we probably should. And especially with the hike in prices, right? So since they are charging us more to do this, I guess they should take their work more seriously. But there are some things that will take a long time to remedy. For example, we know their machinery and the logistical constraints. They have a backlog of 70,000 and counting.
Yes.
So realistically, I mean, if you were to put in an application now, you know what time it is.
But
it's going to take a bit of
speaks
time.
to how we have lots of laws that actually work in this country. lots of policies that in themselves are not bad. Hey, did I say laws that work? We have laws that don't work. We have policies that in themselves are not bad, but the implementation of them is where the problem is. So this is good. It's good news if it's feasible. If it's doable, it's good news. But I don't know how many people, first of all, even aware that they can file a complaint about it. And I don't know how seriously we will take this. But let me do one last story in the Daily Graphic before we move to another newspaper. Cocoa producer price increase lowest ever, according to Minority. The minority in Parliament, the story is on page 18. The minority in Parliament has said the current increase in the producer price of cocoa is the lowest in the history of the country. The minority said its claim was based on recent surge in the world market price of cocoa to an all-time high of an average $10,000 per ton, which was equivalent to 130,000 Ghana cedis at a conservative exchange rate of $1 to 13 Ghana cedis. That amount is said translated into 8,125 Ghana cedis per bag on the international market. Quote, it is sad to note that the newly announced producer price of 33,120 per ton, which translates into 2,070 Ghana cedis per bag, constitutes a paltry 25.47% of the world market price of cocoa.
You know, just was it last week or two, I put out the figures in terms of the current price per ton, which is more than copper. That should tell you how high the prices have gone versus what they were giving cocoa farmers. And all of a sudden, a bit more has been added. But let's also welcome Dr. Sharif Mahamud Khalid, Associate Professor of Accounting and Finance. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
I see you want to. So
on a rainy Monday morning. Yeah, good to be.
It caught you, eh? I mean, it switched from clear weather to the rain in minutes.
I can't describe it. So I'll just leave it at that.
It's something else out there.
Isn't that bad outside?
It is very bad. It is very bad. It is very bad.
I mean, thankfully, I just went across to get something, and all of a sudden, I saw the switch. I was like, it was almost as though it were 4:30 again.
Yeah.
You know, the weather.
Yeah. I almost gave up coming in studio, but I said, well, let me push it.
We're grateful that you could. So she's raised a number of issues. Maybe we've spoken about Doomsaw, we've spoken about
passports,
scholarships, passports. Any quick reactions before we go?
Well, I mean, the point is, with the passport issue, I think it's quite a sensitive issue. And for me, from what I was hearing from the media, if it's anything to go by, I wasn't very impressed with the response of the Minister of Foreign Affairs, who said, like, it's not treating it as though it's not an essential item. Right, but when we talk about passport services, you remember during the registration exercise, it became even an important tool to be used to exercise your franchise.
I mean, speaking of the registration exercise of the EC now.
Of the EC now.
Now that it's not just the Ghana card, the passport can be used. It's still a crucial issue.
A crucial issue. So it's just not a travel document in our part of the world or in the Ghanaian context. Exactly. And my disappointment with her was that when you're a foreign minister, you're a chief diplomat, and your language must be very diplomatic. Right, this is someone who we've put up as a candidate for the Commonwealth General Secretary. Exactly. And you come across with such a tone, I think, underplays the role, and it waters down your candidature for such an international position with high profile and stature. So I think that the ministry hasn't really responded to this issue very well. And it's about time ministers, or for that matter, the executive, allow functionality of... I know that there are top-notch civil servants within the Foreign Service who are probably, run the communications department, and let us hear from them, right? The backstop is you. So when it becomes very critical, then we can hear from you. But that very response was naive to have come from a chief diplomat, and I thought that was unfortunate. She owes Ghanaians an apology.
In her defense, she says these are realistic prices. And then when you do the comparison between what other people are paying in Africa, it looks like we are the only ones now coming up to speed.
What is the definition of a realistic price when it comes to an essential service like a passport? For me, I deem a passport like a birth certificate, right? Given the kind of prominence we give it, it's sort of like, if we're using it
compared to other jurisdictions.
Other jurisdictions who would not, because in other jurisdictions, it's mentioned you don't need a passport to get on the voters register or the voters roll. And that is problematic. So if we're using a passport for very functional issues, sometimes even banking services and the likes of that. It means that it's a crucial document when it comes to doing business and having the ease as a citizen to actually get on certain, statutory issues that require that by law, you have the right to have it. Then she's invariably, or to put a price mechanism that scare people away from having it means that you are depriving them of that right. Right. And for me to have come from a chief diplomat, it's quite unfortunate. Right. Then again, we talk about scholarships issues.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been hearing this from the grapevine in time past, but I think expose is actually bringing a lot to fore.
You know the killer for me, when they requested the information and just to show them something small, instead of giving them a PDF, they gave them about 10,000 pages. Well, you go and read.
They were like playing legal shenanigans. So you ask for discovery or whatever. The other lawyer would load you with a lot of information to actually troll around. But again, when you do that, it can actually even cost them, because if you take the time to sift through all of this, all you need is some key names, and that will muddy the situation. But the point is, people tend to make the comparison to say, in the previous governments, the GET Fund did ABC. The GET Fund didn't have a guideline to do that. Right. The GET Fund had a blanket mandate to do what it did as far as scholarships is concerned. But if you look at what is set up, or the essence of the scholarship secretariat, there are clear guidelines as to what.
And in any case, Doc, for those who may say we need an act and all of that, I don't think we necessarily need an act and all that. I think what we need is common sense and morality.
But the point is,
because is it moral for you, for someone at a certain height of endeavor, to be saying you're giving that person a scholarship that can take care of 60 other students in Ghana?
For me, let's not even. How about the executive programs in Harvard and elsewhere?
That 1 week, that would 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
That is costing like 50,000, like almost like 3 master's degrees in other jurisdictions that are equally good. And what the Harvard executive education, which has been diluted over there, what are you going to do with it anyway?
But anyway, you remember Ejako?
So again,
when he was in Parliament at a point, and they asked whether he would, and he said he would do it again. If given the opportunity.
I think what needs to be done is we need to have needs assessment.
Right.
There have to be a criteria for needs assessment.
Right.
I mean, yes, but I think that the blanket also criticism of saying, okay, this is a former MP's son, this is a former minister's son, it's not fair.
It's problematic.
It's not fair.
I agree.
Because the fact that someone has been a former MP or a minister does not mean that they have the means enough to, sponsor. But if there's wards meet the needs, why not?
Maybe sometimes it's because of the ex gratia these people get.
That's if they get
and
it.
you may also say former IGP and all of that.
So let's say you were minister.
But for all you know, maybe this child is not even being taken care of, so to speak, by this person you are. So those are there.
Apart from that, the minister probably did 9 months, a year, and got exited. Or probably one-term MP and exited. We all know what goes with the office of MP and the responsibility when you are not put on a good board or some ministerial role. You still, so I think that, yes, needs assessment is very important in this regard.
Purely academic. You write some test, you pass.
You pass, then you get it.
Even that will not work. That will not work. Have you forgotten the gentleman who actually, they had this aptitude test. Dude scored 93. He still didn't get that thing. Dude scored 93, did not get it.
So let's I'm talking about needs assessment and all of that. Some people are not good exam takers. Right? They may be very brilliant and all of that. Like they go for that exam, they don't do well. But if the needs assessment is there, okay, well, this ward is smart. These are the various criteria. Probably 10 criteria, you meet a minimum of 7, you go through. I think that is good. So
let's quickly check out, is it the new finder?
Yes, the new find. On the front page, cocoa price up by 58.26%. A bag now sells at 2,070 Ghana cedis. But on page 5 of the new finder, there's a story here. Teacher exodus. Education stakeholders call for urgent recruitment of new teachers. I'll do that final story and then I'll hand over to you, Ben. Stakeholders in education at a conference have expressed concerns about the increasing number of teachers leaving Ghana to abroad, saying the situation is rendering classrooms empty. They said the situation was affecting teaching and learning in basic schools due to inadequate teachers. They therefore asked the Ghana Education Service to give early clearance for recruitment of new teachers to address the shortfall. This was made during a stakeholder engagement forum to make input into political parties' manifestos organized by Send Ghana. Every day we wake up to issues in the education sector, but it appears the government have their own trajectory on what they want to achieve when it comes to education sector. Doc, what's your reaction to
this? I think that our educational sector has been in some form of, to controversially use this word, some crisis of a sort, or maybe some confusion as a sort, if I don't want to go that hard.
Yeah.
And it's about time we addressed all of these issues. I mean, we already have a big attrition rate when it comes to teacher training and deployment, or for that matter, postings. So if we're having this, and the very few that we've trained with the taxpayers are exiting the country, I mean, what is the incentive we have, especially so when we have a supposed flagship project of a program of free SHS? What it means is that it's not, the demand side is not meeting the supply side of things as well, and incentives. So you look at this, okay, since the inception of free SHS, what incentives have been put in place to actually up or maintain teacher quality and also retention within the sector? None, for that matter. So you could remember that, I think the two unions, or is it three, of NAGRAT? Yeah, they have been, a couple of times. I think they just called off a recent strike action. So what it means is that their needs actually have not been met, right? And teaching is a very noble profession. And if we don't turn as a nation to put consciousness to it, to actually have the real motivation, right, to get the drive towards putting the right teachers before classrooms or before pupils, then we're going to continue to have these kind of problems. It's just like policing. If you don't have the passion to be a policeman and you ever get in, you just don't perform.
Well, it's just a simple thing. Look at the countries that we call developed.
Developed, yes.
They have developed on the back of proper teaching. Which then leads to
that.
having the right material for industry. And back when we keep talking about those empires and how they came to learn from the Arabs and all of that,
I always say
drew the rest of the world
our first inspiration and motivation is our teachers. Think back to your primary school teacher.
True.
The one you saw every day of the week when you went to school. You hoped to be like him. If he was a disciplined lady, or and how he or she dressed, they become our first role models. Yeah. So why are we shying away from actually empowering this sector and actually making it very attractive? You look at the OECD ratings of PISA rankings. We are nowhere to be found. That is problematic. I'm not saying we have to be on every ranking whatsoever, but you look at the quality of numeracy and literacy skill. I always said our parents who did the old system of GCSEs, O-levels, and the likes of, they speak better English than you and I.
As for today, let's not even go there.
The
PISA surveys and reports, I mean, over the last few years, they've been controversial because when you talk about them here, it's a different ballgame. But that's a conversation for another day.
We have to go. Digitization has come to solve all that.
No, but how has it? And okay, then but the point is, if you put laptops right in the hands of students, where teachers don't have even IT literacy to deliver this to students, what have you done? Are you just allowing students to explore?
That's a question you need to put to the right people.
I don't speak for the education industry, so I'm not going to
but it's just a critical
I'm not going to hold brief
that is
for anybody. But I'm just going to go through a few stories. The rest of them, for example, this bit about Ghana being ranked best in governance in West Africa by World Economics Governance Index report.
We
flogged that
very misleading
from
but that's very
last.
But that's very misleading.
So supposedly fifth in Africa, first in West Africa.
Fifth in West Africa, is that not?
No, fifth in Africa, first in
West Africa.
But those metrics, I don't even want us to go there because we ourselves.
No, not the metrics. How many states do we have in West Africa?
There are about 15.
15.
Yeah.
Out of these 15, about 5 of them are in turmoil. So forget, they can't be a part of the ratings, right? Because we talk of Mali, we talk about, so if out of the 10 you are first, I mean, is this something?
But it's not bad if you are first out of 10. But it is what they are looking at. They are looking at corruption.
Out of the
corruption, rule of law, governance. And I ask myself,
out of the 10, ask a few rogue states, and you don't want to go after any state to say this is what it is.
That's why I don't want to.
We all know what is within the sub-region.
Yeah, but at least it's a win is a win. So.
A win is a win. Our democracy. But the point is, it's if we really want to talk about real democracy and the rule of law, right? I say, look, what metrics are we looking at? What critical issues are we looking when you have a very partisan attorney general? Right, his language and diction.
You think Dr. Dami is
very partisan? Yeah, when he takes approaches, because the point is, I always say, look, when you're attorney general, you're chief lawyer of the country, right? So when you start to have a certain posturing,
he's head of the bar.
Yeah, but when you start to have a certain posturing, you can do a content analysis of his speeches and his response to very critical issues. Right. That has been watered down from a partisan.
Name one.
Like,
Name
I was
one.
going to ask, like what?
No, the point is, like, for instance, you look at this issue of the recent court incident where, there was back and forth with the presidency and Parliament or the Speaker of Parliament. You can read his tone and response to it. Right. I thought that because the point is, when you have relatively young people in very sensitive office, regardless of political interest or what have you. You may have that because we can understand that we all have our political leanings. Right. But certain office such as Attorney General and Minister of Justice, they had to be, it's a very thin line. Which
is why some people have said that office ought to be decoupled.
Yes,
so
when you sound in a certain tone in how you deliver, and especially also in issues of SAL and all of these things, and the issues you take to court, how some are expedited, how some are not expedited, it tends to, I'm not accusing him of anything wrong, it is just the optics it creates around the office, and that becomes problematic.
Okay, so we have just about 2-3 minutes. Let's quickly make the most of that time. The Ghanaian Times newspaper, stakeholders hold crunch meeting over energy crisis. You ought to be concerned about that because guess what? We're all talking of the power situation. So players in the energy sector value chain on Saturday held a crunch meeting to discuss the erratic power supply in the country. Now, convened by the Mines and Energy Committee of Parliament, the meeting was attended by representatives from the Ministries of Finance and Energy, the Electricity Company of Ghana, the Ghana Grid Company, the Volta River Authority, the Bui Power Authority, the Northern Electricity Development Company, and independent power producers. Now, speaking with the media after the closed-door meeting, Chairman of the Mines and Energy Committee and MP for Achimebwakwa South, Samuel Atachian, said they had listened to all the stakeholders and had a better grasp of the issues, bedeviling the sector. Having come to that realization, I don't know whether they just got the epiphany. Having come to that realization, he then said the need for a load-shedding timetable to manage the situation had become inevitable as the players in the value chain find solution to the crisis. But the energy minister has said that if you are calling for a timetable, you are wishing evil upon the land. So I don't know whether Atachian is contradicting
undermining him.
The Daily Guide also says, let me just add this, Ghana's bullet trains arrive. So let me just get to that story. Here we are. So the first batch of 12 state-of-the-art bullet trains assembled in Poland for railway transportation in Ghana has arrived at the Tema port. This marks a significant moment for Ghana's transportation sector and will be used on the new Tema Mpakadan standard gauge railway line. I'm just going to leave it there. So the 97-kilometer standard gauge railroad, known as the Tema Mpakadan railway line, will facilitate the movement of goods and people along the eastern corridor of Ghana. It is part of a large plan for a 1,000-kilometer Ghana-Burkina Faso interconnectivity project connecting Ouagadougou to the port in Tema. Those are the stories I will look at. Any reactions?
Yeah, the point is, with the issue of, I'll start with the trains, right? When we talk about a green economy, we talk about sustainability issues. We've just returned from Dubai COP23. If I'm
no. I think it's gone way past.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, only recently we've just returned from COP. From the recent climate change, and we're putting diesel-powered trains. Bullet trains on track. I think that's very problematic.
We have to start from somewhere.
Starting from somewhere then means that you have to start clean, right?
Okay.
Because we've
But you have a point.
Yeah,
so if we are progressively going clean the world,
in the world over,
then don't start
by going back. That's my point. You get it. So yes, we all want to have trains on our tracks running and giving a decent transportation system or network across the country. I'm happy to sit on a train and work on my laptop from, Accra to Wale or wherever it is. But to put diesel-powered engines on these tracks, I think that it hasn't really ticked the boxes.
Okay, so we have to go in about a minute. Any final thoughts before he
comes with? We have the facility and the infrastructure to actually make this work.
That's where else.
Why not be optimistic?
Optimistic.
You must start. I keep saying you must start from somewhere,
trains.
right?
Have you seen those things called sky trains?
You see, the talk about that from the outset, I knew. Here's the point. So as for that one, leave
I
it
just
out.
hope that
But this is on the ground. Let's see what we
I
can
just
do.
hope it's not an election year gimmick.
All right.
Of bringing these things
Let's wait
in
and
to show some that, okay, we're doing something, these trains are working. And after elections, I know everything goes down again.
Thank you, Dr. Khalid.
A lot is happening. And I don't know if you discussed the appointment of the judges as well, only recently.
It's in there, yes. It's
yeah.
it's actually on page
I think Mr. President
3 of the...
he's overdoing it, is he not?
He's overdoing it.
Yeah, because I mean, he should fix our prisons and make them a decent place and actually make them very rehabilitative as well to commensurate the appointment of judges.
Court of Appeal. It's an interesting picture when you look across our courts now.
I mean,
it's a very interesting
judiciary is
picture.
launching an initiative, a press launch, making such a fuss about it.
Yeah, but well,
why not?
I find some very interesting names in there, and also some people that are very respected within the...
Dr. Khalid, I know exactly what you mean. We'll have a time for that conversation some other time, because when I also saw it, in fact, I reacted on our group page and shared my thoughts on some matters.
Again, it's at the timing,
Right.
I mean, with few months to go, we have 6 months to have an election.
Right.
And it looks like this is about, I don't know, he's been appointed almost every year. He appoints. This is like the High Court. This is one of the APEC, like big
Court of Appeal.
Court of Appeal,
Right.
which is like next to the Supreme or whatever.
The Superior Court.
Superior Court.
High Court.
But
Court
if you
of
even
Appeal.
look at the lower courts and the high courts, the kind of appointments he's made recently. So the point is, when you begin to do all of this, and then the next government comes in and say, okay, we would also dilute this. Then we tend to a very important arm of government, which is a judiciary. We tend to water it.
Thank you, Dr. Khalid. We really have to go.
Right.
Dr. Sharif Mahamud Khalid, Associate Professor of Accounting and Finance. Before we veer into sports, this segment is always brought to you by Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, and they're offering you prostate screening for free if you're a man, fertility screening for free if you're a woman. Just reach out to them at any of their branches here in Accra, Spintex, opposite the Shell signboard, Kumasi, Kronoma, here behind the Angel Educational Complex. There's Takrady Anaji State Tema Community 22. Techiman Hanswa and Esiamanzama. Their call lines 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. Bringing us to the end of the news review segment. Sports is up next, and of course, mouth-watering for me, Manchester United versus Liverpool. In that 2-2 draw. Look forward to more action coming your way. Do stay.